guys. Welcome back. Welcome back to Cliff's Edge. Welcome from the Queen City, as you know. Rock and roll radio city here, Cincinnati. I'm coming to you live. Yes, this is not a recording. There have been too many of those lately, and there will be some coming up in the future, and I apologize. But combination of a 12-hour live stream at Substack plus getting the flu. Don't get it. It sucks. For about 4 or 5 days, bed was my home. And then the next week I've had to work. I had to work really with what felt like a really bad cold or something. And, like 12 days, I would say I felt like crap. Yesterday was the first day that I started feeling good. And even so, you're still drained and tired. But plus not being early 20 something, I think Dawn is saying, yes, I am old. That does not help. It was great back in the 20s when my 20s, not the 1920s. I'm not quite that old. When I would get sick and just be like, all right, so I guess we're going to lay off the gin tonight and only go with the vodka. But, times change, and I've done my best to age gracefully and keep in shape. And hopefully that helps in all seriousness in these situations. I don't talk a ton about fitness on here. I brought it up when I had my friend from Def Leppard, Phil Collin, on. He did a big thing on fitness on that Substack live stream that went 12 hours because he's 67 and still takes his shirt off to play guitar. And he can do that because of fitness. And so I am a avid gym rat, and I think that, take long walks on days when I can't lift in between. And I would recommend to all of you, if you're aging towards your 40s and 50s, it does help. Like, not only psychologically you feel better, but sickness you get over sooner. Doesn't mean you can't have any sweets or foods you enjoy or whatever. It just means everything within reason. And that included also like me about cutting out about 90+% of the alcohol I drank in my 20s and 30s, and still like a good tequila on the rocks here and there, and still like I love my craft beer, but I make sure that I spread out when I have those because, again, it's up to you what you want to be like if you want to sort of feel terrible all the time. But it's enough of a challenge anyhow as you get older. Obsessive audio. No one is as fit as Phil Collin. You are correct. That's why he was a good person to have on to start playing some riffs like he did, fooling and pour some sugar on me, as he informed us that was the one for us all to take our clothes off. He's such an awesomely funny and cool guy. But also, he's a vegan. I can't go there. And I don't judge anybody for going there. I'm just saying not for me. But but when you see one of your close friends, the rhythm guitarist in the band died of a cocaine overdose, and that was his best friend. I think they all went pretty much clean, and Phil went even further. I've never had anything like that. Sadly, have lost a few friends, but along the way, but for other reasons, not for that reason. And I just decided that I saw how certain people age, and I saw people who were in their late 30s, early 40s who couldn't walk up a flight of stairs, and I just decided that wasn't going to be me. And I'm so glad that I've done it the way I've done it. It's worth it. Trust me, it's worth it. You can still have those nights out. You still go out for a bunch of drinks some nights. You still eat bad food. In any case, we're getting off on stuff here, and we're not talking about what we're going to talk about. Donald Trump, of course, always being the classless, low-life, cerebrally drenched with Adderall, doofus, weenus. He's just such a horrible, terrible person. And I think he's jealous of the fact that Hunter Biden's hog is much bigger than his, but the putting on as I did, the thumbnail, he is actively endangering Joe Biden's life. There has not been, that I'm aware of during my lifetime, there has not been a president who has not had either an attempt on their ex-president attempt on their life or their families, or attempted kidnapping. It is constant, these things. The threats to them are even worse than other members of government. And of course, he stirs people up every day. I had a list of items he said the last couple of days. The economic problems are Joe Biden's fault. I won't tell you about the record job growth, best in 70 years. It has nothing to do with Doge being a scam. Nothing to do with the fact that I go back and forth on tariffs like I do on wives and porn stars. Yeah, he of course is destroying our economy himself by being a petulant little putz, being an idiot, having no stability, offering people nothing they can believe in. Stability, rule of law, all those things. He's destroying it. Tariffs. I'm going to hit them with tariffs because Justin Trudeau's better looking. My wife wants to have him instead of me, and he's the one destroying what was a great economy. But he blamed Joe Biden. So somebody who lost their job, who's a little unstable out there, it's Joe Biden's fault. For somebody who he also blamed Joe Biden for wasting our money on Ukraine, and they've created all sorts of conspiracies about that. So if you're somebody who thinks, oh, the $75 billion is so much. If you saw one of those debates, that Jubilee thing that Sam Cedar, whose show I used to go on, did a debate with all these right wingers, and one of them was like, Doge is cutting all these funds, and Sam actually did a great job. Was like, well, what are they cutting? The guy's like, $75 billion from Ukraine. He's like, okay, what else? That's really not that much in the overall budget. And the guy's like trying to say some stuff. He's like, nope, they didn't cut that. Well, $75 billion from Ukraine. I said that. And it's like, okay, pal, you're doing great. They've created conspiracies about that get people angry enough that they easily could target Biden and his family. He's called Biden a traitor. He has called Biden somebody who tried to overthrow our country. He's called Biden somebody who has tried to attack white people in our country, hates white people, I believe he said at one point. I looked up a bunch of these. The quotes go on forever, and he keeps saying them. So what happens? Well, there's a principle we all know of, if you know stuff, stochastic terrorism, which is you can't predict when or how something's going to happen. But if you say enough stuff about somebody that is evil and lies and conspiracy and disinformation, which is why that's not free speech and should not be, and we're idiots for making it such. But I digress. That ends up putting Joe Biden's life more in danger. So he's creating the danger and taking away the protection from Biden and his family. As Dawn said here, all because Marjorie Taylor Greene cannot calm herself down. She's got like the largest feathers, and she probably tries to bring in, I'm sure, anybody black around her to wave them at her because that's the way she pictures it should be, so that she can calm down. Oh, that Hunter Biden hog. Well, I find that thing to be just downright gorgeous. My husband didn't have that thing. He was a flaccid little doll. All right. Let's bring Tony in here. Speaking of flaccid.
Man, you're on the Hunter's hog thing again.
Well, we had to just simply, it was the lead. It was thumbnail. So I thought maybe I should talk about it because in the end, I wanted to make some jokes, but in the end, there's, the context we didn't go through that on your show, which we can go through, which is, I'm trying to remember, is it 7 or 8 of our 45, 6, 7 presidents were assassinated? Okay. Pretty decent percentage of them were assassinated. James Garfield, Lincoln, JFK, which we're going to talk more about today. What's his name? McKinley. Rutherford. Was Rutherford B. Hayes? I feel like he was assassinated. Probably should have been if he was. Well, I can make that joke.
I mean, you're probably
150 years.
You're probably making Hayes's descendants really mad about it. I'm sure.
I don't really care. Hayes is the one who to win the state of Florida and steal their electoral votes ended desegregation and led us into 100 years of Jim Crow. So he can go stick it up his ass, and so can his relatives. But I'm trying to remember if he. But I'm missing others.
Well, I mean, there were some that were attempted assassinations. Of course, famously in our lifetime, Reagan and the staged one by Trump.
Right, exactly. The one where Trump's ear actually looks perfect, has no issues with it, because that's what would happen if that weapon hit him in the ear.
Right.
One day we will find out the truth about that. Release those files, Donald Trump.
Maybe.
That's not being a conspiracy theorist. That's called having a basic understanding of medicine and being somebody that used to shoot when I was a kid on a rifle team and understanding what larger caliber weapons can do. They don't leave your ear like that. They don't. But I don't want to even get into that. Listen, there's an attempt on FDR's life. There's an attempt on Gerald Ford's life. My point to you is there have been, to my knowledge, attempts on almost every president's life or members of their family. So this isn't even something where you're thinking, well, maybe it could happen. Like,
well,
there
and
will
the
be
other
somebody,
thing too. The other thing,
a weak one, but it'll happen.
The other thing too is not just assassination attempts, because the FBI foils a lot of these attempts One in particular, there was a man out in Utah. He was on Facebook when Joe Biden was president. He was constantly posing with guns and rifles, and he was saying that he was going to use this gun to assassinate Joe Biden. And Joe Biden was actually going to speak at Salt Lake City. So the FBI shows up at this guy's house, and I believe, if my memory serves me right, his name may have been Thompson. That's what I want to think, but I can't think of the guy's name exactly right offhand. But they show up to the guy's house in Utah to make sure that he's okay and make sure that they can secure these weapons and that this guy isn't going to go try to assassinate a president of the United States. Because the last thing they want is to have someone not only assassinate, but to actually attempt that assassination. So they rather stop it before it even becomes an attempt. So they went to check on the guy, and they had a shootout, and the FBI ended up having to kill this guy because he was armed and dangerous, and he was firing at them because it seemed as if he wanted to be violent. But they spoiled a lot of they spoiled a lot of attacks. They spoiled a lot of these plans on Obama. So every single president has to deal with this. It's not just the ones that you think, oh, well, they're the ones that are likely to be assassinated.
Right. And you're thinking, we don't know what was going to happen on 9/11 with that last plane. The Capitol would have made more sense than the White House because it sticks up higher. It would have been an easier target, but we don't know. And remember, I don't know if folks remember this. We're going back a little bit. You may have been young, or probably just being born like Tony, but a small plane actually crashed outside the White House when Bill Clinton was president, where a guy was trying to, I mean, again, this may be our conspiracy show where we have to go through all of this stuff, because we got JFK coming up, we already talked about Trump, but I'm telling you, every president or their family has had these threats. And as Tony said, like they don't stop counting as threats and planned attacks and planned assassinations. If you stop them before they happen, they just get stopped before they happen. And there have been multiple ones where they've stopped. I mean, Obama being the first black president, it was like there was one a week, and even after he was president. So with Trump stoking those fires, I'm just saying there's by far, it's not that it was ever a good thing. And this guy wasn't a petulant child for doing what he did with Milley and with other folks. But it's so much more dangerous, and especially because they made Hunter Biden infamous with what they did and made all these right-wing lunatics hate him and think he was involved in some fraud or whatever, none of which they could ever find. Again, only his schlong, which Marjorie Taylor Greene is sitting alone with in a room with a replica of right now, playing around with and probably talking to. But in the end, like this puts his family, this is honestly a threat of harm to his family. When you know what happens to all these people, when you're out there on purpose saying things to stoke, look at me getting the stochastic terrorism. I wasn't even going for that. And all that. And in a country where we've decided that disinformation and hate speech is free speech, and everybody who has a pulse should be able to get a gun in a lot of states, like you're asking for disaster. And I don't believe for a second, as stupid, addled, angry, idiotic, and every other thing I could use about Trump, he doesn't get what he's doing. He hates them because they're better than he is. Like he hates most people because they're better than him. And he's doing what he can to harm them. Everything he does with these little petty things are never about saving money. It's about his anger, resentment, and hatred for people.
Right. And the other thing that I think he's trying to do to the Biden family is to make them spend what fortune they didn't make off corruption, because we never really got to the bottom of all the corruption they said we get. And you think they'd be doing that right now, like they'd really be getting to the bottom of all the corruption from Joe Biden, but they seem way too focused on going to war with our enemy, Canada. So it's wild stuff out there.
He saw the South Park movie. He knew how things were going to work out.
Right.
But you know what? You're right about that. The thing is that, I mean, luckily for the Bidens, because again, the thing that proved it when people were like, you shouldn't say X about, you shouldn't say certain words. Right. You should never give the right fuel on purpose. But whenever people says you shouldn't do this because the right will then do that. And I always have to say to them, they're going to do it anyhow. Okay. Just stop. And like, this is one of those kinds of examples of Biden invited him to the White House. You could be as nice to this guy as you wanted to be. In the end, he is addled in all sorts of ways, and he was going to try to do this kind of viciousness towards Biden. And again, it puts them legitimately in danger. Now, Joe Biden, the irony of it all is that they tried to define him as corrupt when he literally was one of the most uncorrupt people, like second only maybe to Jimmy Carter. He wasn't even worth, when he was vice president, he wasn't even worth $1 million because he had stayed in government. He never went and cashed out. In those couple of years he was out of government after he was VP, before he was president, he was teaching at like Penn and the University of Delaware and stuff like that. He wasn't out there making gazillion-dollar speeches. So the only reason why he's worth a couple million is he wrote a memoir in there somewhere, and he got like a $2 million advance. You know what I mean? And so I guess now he may have to give $100,000 speeches and things to pay for security. That's what may end up happening.
I think that's actually the play here because, like I said on my show, I think the idea that an authoritarian who plans on politically prosecuting his political enemies, like if that's your plan, like if I'm living in a reality where I get to be elected as a king and I'm like, okay, now I'm going to be king, I'm going to be dictator, and I'm going to get rid of my political enemies. The last thing I want is for them to hire private security. Like that's the last thing I want is for them to hire, listen to what I'm saying, hire private securities to defend them against, like, I don't know, going and getting them and imprisoning them. But they have
this
private
is a guy
security
that should even want to get rid of his enemies because, sorry, I'm just going to say this and you can argue with me, Tony, or we can laugh about it. But in the case of some of his enemies, Chuck Schumer, Dick Durbin, Fetterman, they help more than the guys on his own side do. He should want them around. He should actually hire like Secret Service for Chuck Schumer to protect him and make sure that they should have like a food taster for Chuck Schumer to make sure he's as healthy as a freaking ox and can stay there forever. And then Trump will get every damn thing he wants.
That's interesting because I just had Rachel Bittekofer on my show and she had a little bit different perspective on this. She has for the last week. Her perspective was, and I guess it obviously she believes that Chuck Schumer did this completely wrong and he looks like a feckless leader because
we all agree on that.
Leader.
How
right.
he did it was awful.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think to Rachel's point, now my point is that I wanted an appetite for people to shut Trump's government down and to have that appetite to shut it down, shut Trump down. And that appetite is there. Also by Schumer, waffling on this, we're going to stay in this fight. And then like, no, I'm just kidding. How he did it was right.
Like,
that gives us an
appetite.
Right. That gives us an appetite for getting rid of the Democratic leadership that is feckless and really at this point non-existent as opposition. But I think Rachel makes a really good point about the CR, not only because that doing a government shutdown gives more executive power to the executive branch in that moment. And Trump certainly would take advantage of that because he takes advantage of any opportunity to grab anything by the, you know what. But here's the thing is that the CR, what it really does to me, and I pointed this out as soon as I was able to see those line items, over the next 10 years, it cuts Medicaid by $880 billion, almost $1 trillion in cut over a decade. Now, why that's so important is it's actually more money than $1 trillion. And the reason why is because almost all of that $880 million is matched funds by the state. So what happens is for the state to receive a lot of that $880 million that they're cutting anyways. But if they were to get that, the states have to match that money to receive that federal dollar, which means that there's going to be there's going to be huge money in these state budgets that are now surplus. And how they get rid of surplus in the state budget is give it in tax cuts to the richest people in the state. So it's a waterfall of money into rich people's pockets.
Definitely red and swing and whatever states.
Mm-hmm.
Blue states sometimes do crazy things like invest in clean water and quality of life. And there's a reason why like Massachusetts is ranked the happiest, state in the country. And if you go like the top 10, 12, or whatever, the states where people say that the cost of living is higher in some of those states, but where they're happiest and have the best, park system, this, that, it's always blue states.
Right.
Always.
Well,
So,
and
so
that's
they
and
won't
that's
use
the
the tax
and I
cut, but the red states will. Yes.
but I think the most important thing that Rachel brings up in this, the whole thing, whether it be the executive power part, whether it be that Trump and the GOP and MAGA is really doing what they want to do to poor people and for rich people and making that blaringly obvious, and it's Trump's ink on the page for that. But more importantly, they did a 6-month CR. And you know about elections, Cliff. You know about the dog days of summer and how boring they are in politics. But imagine how hot it's going to be and how much economic anxiety there is going to be by the time we get to September. And the Republicans then have to go back to the drawing board to redo this again. And they're going to want more cuts. And the reason why is because their billionaire owners are going to love them for the last cuts they gave, because they got $4.5 trillion plus all the state
because Musk
tax
may
cuts.
have a margin call by then, so
That's
he may
right.
need the money.
Exactly.
No, I mean, look, and I understand that perspective. I think, though, where I come down is where you started out, which is there have to be acts of defiance and major ones to show that the opposition in government means business, that the opposition among the people mean business, acts of defiance from places you don't expect it, whether it's a comedian like Bill Burr, whether it's the Eagles refusing to go to the White House for the Super Bowl ceremony, where it's everything that shows, that sends a message to people that this person isn't normal, that this is not a normal government in a democracy, which it is not, and that they are breaking laws regularly and breaking ethical standards regularly and all the other stuff they're doing. And part of how you do that is you say you shut the government down because it gets people's attention. Now, granted, can I admit that might have backfired on Democrats? Yes, only because, again, it's almost like a circular argument here, because we have the leaders we have. If the leaders were the people that, Chris Murphy, Jasmine Crockett, people like that, I'd feel great about it because I know we'd win the messaging war, because I know they'd get up in their faces and be like, fuck off. You know what I mean? But my worry, the only worry is that they'd put Dick Durbin in front of a camera and he's like approaching Chuck Grassley's age, and they'd sit there together and they would discuss how things were back in the 1900s, when the automobile was invented. And so, as far as I'm concerned, again, I mean, look at what just happened. There was just a massive uprising against Orban. Okay, massive in Budapest, in Belgrade, where I don't even know how to pronounce his name, Vukic, whatever the Vufuck, I don't know. See, you shouldn't punish me for that, YouTube. I thought that might be his name. He's a right-wing populist too, and they hate him. And I mean, it was an insane number that came out in Belgrade. It was like 1/6 of the Serbian population? I mean, it was a number where I think it was, because it was a number where they said if an equivalent number of Americans came out and marched against our government, it would be like 50 million.
That's crazy. Well,
yes,
that proves a point, though. That proves a point, though. And the point is that Trump is not good for this right-wing ideology around the world. And the reason why is because people are seeing it play out right in front of them. They're like, oh, maybe this isn't the best idea.
No, you're right. That would be the great irony of this, if Putin's whole project, which he centered on us, was, this is a movie in the making, right? This has to be a movie in the making. It's all centered around the U.S., but he's doing this in all these other countries too. He even scores a success with Brexit in the U.K. He scores successes in some certain governments like Hungary, like Serbia, like these places. And then the dolt he picked in America, when he could have picked almost any standard Republican idiot. But he picked a guy so stupid and so incompetent that guy undoes it for all of them. Right?
It could be, you said it could be a movie. It could be a Three Stooges movie. It could be the slapstick. Yes. Yeah, it would definitely make a great, because you could blame all the bullshit on the Stooges instead of, blaming it on Putin and Trump's incompetence.
Right. I mean, again, as Francie says here, and maybe she's heard me say this often, or maybe she's just saying this of her own volition, which is good, because this is just about the best example you can give. And I give this all the time. Trump bankrupted casinos. I can't explain how hard that is to do. Okay.
The mob used to rob hundreds of millions of dollars from their casinos, and they didn't even bankrupt them.
Exactly. The house, they say the house always wins for a reason. Okay. I just want to give you an idea. Okay. Your average casino. You walk in, you willingly say, here's my money. Give me back some non-guaranteed chips that I'll probably lose. Right? Like give me back chips for actual currency. And chances are I'm going to lose it. But then let's make this better. Pump the place full of oxygen to keep me awake. Ply me full of drinks to get me drunk, so I'm not
have
using
no exits in sight. No exits.
have no
in
exits in sight. Have no like windows on the wall. So and have no clocks. So it's completely disorienting. So I could, for all I know, it's 2 a.m, 2 p.m. I don't know what the hell time it is. So there's nothing else for me to do. I'm surprised they don't confiscate people's phones. And so you just sit there at a table, get drunk, breathe in this beautiful, it's beautiful oxygen. You know what I mean? And have no idea what time you're supposed to meet whoever, where, and what time your show's going on. Screw that. I'm doing well at the table. And you lose everything. This asshole lost money at those places. He bankrupted them.
Let me go even further. A lot of the casinos built in Vegas, they were built and financed by the Teamsters a lot, but most of these unions, and they were at high interest loans. Okay. These were extremely high interest construction loans. Like no one would ever take these construction loans ever in the history of ever, but they knew that they could make so much money. So not only was the mob taking high interest loans from the Teamsters, they were also stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from the cash room, from the count room, and they still weren't banking. They were still making
lose.
Right. They were trying to find ways to launder the money because they were making too much money. And Trump can't handle to keep a couple of them open.
Right. Like if in Ocean's 13 they'd hired like a 14th character and made it Ocean's 14, but it was like George Clooney's dim-witted cousin who'd like been hit in the head with a brick and like and showed up and said, here's the plan. We're going to just walk in and walk up to all of the cocktail waitresses and demand they give us all the money. That's pretty much like the Trump scenario for what happened. I mean, again, like you can't make it up because no one has ever failed in the casino industry. Have some people lost money in a few casinos here and there? Yeah. And again, my guess is like Tony said, a lot of it was about what they were taking out the back door. And they didn't estimate that correctly. But nobody has serially bankrupted casinos the way this schmuck did. I mean, he's just an idiot in every way. And so
it's the reason why the NFL would never let him be an owner, by the way. That is the reason why the NFL, because the NFL knew how much of a buffoon he was. And it's really the owners. But it's the owners that knew this because the owners have to let an owner in. And they knew he was such a buffoon. And the media loved him, right? They were like, oh, look at this guy from New York. He's opening these casinos. He's so great. And then 2 years later, they're like, he's the dumbest idiot ever. How did we, the media, fall for this?
Growing up in New York, I can't explain to you how that went back and forth, that trend, because already the newspapers, well, we had a couple of tabloids, the Post and Daily News, whatever, but already even the Times was buying into the tabloid. Let's sell more of them. And again, Donald Trump has this charisma that works on right-wingers and dumb people that I don't understand. But on top of that, also, here's the key, and this is why the whole Republican Party has done so well. Think Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley, DeSantis, is that if you lack any shame, everything becomes much easier. Like, he would brag to them about his failures. Like, my marriage is falling apart because I cheated on her with somebody else. Like, most people would try to hide that. Trump would go to the tabloids with it, with the name John Barron, which, where do you ever get that name from, Barron? I mean, I don't know. I've never heard the name since, so I don't really know that was a family name or anything. In any case, he would call in as a fake publicist about what an idiot he was, knowing that would get him attention and realizing that we were already in the WWE age where all that mattered was fame. And then you get covered and you could license your name because you'd be famous. And so he didn't have to, after a little bit as a fake builder whose project sucked and were built shoddy and fell apart. I think Elon Musk is now on this path. If you just saw where the Cybertrucks, and I'm not kidding you, had to be sent back, a few of them, because a couple glued on panels fell off. Glued on.
Why the whole car is glued together? You know that, right?
Like, I didn't until now. What do they use? Like monkey glue or what? I mean, like I could freaking create one of those things. Give me some Elmer's glue and I'll give you a Cybertruck.
Have you ever heard of a kit car?
I've heard of the car that talked to Michael.
No. A kit car is
you laugh at that. You
so you order a kit car and then you put it together, right? And they look very weird and funky, and they don't even look like a real person built these things. It looked like it was built in the back of someone's shed. That's what the Cybertruck looks like. The Cybertruck looks like a kit car. It's
you say that. I say it looks like two dumpsters humped for about an hour.
Yeah,
that's what came out. But I mean, I'll take yours. Yours is fine.
But the thing is that the kit cars are so hard to license because you got to prove them. You got to take them through inspection. But yes, the kit car that is the Cybertruck is like mostly glued together. And there's a video actually, and I think it's at the Las Vegas Tesla where yesterday.
Right. Didn't one catch on fire or something?
Yeah, they set a bunch of them.
That happens like every day. I mean, I don't know if it was arson, but they've caught on fire a number of times on their own. Somebody I go to the gym with, I mean, he drives this hunk of junk up there and is proud of it. And like it is amazing.
The Cybertruck? He drives the Cybertruck?
Yes. Well, this guy does. And like I'm just like, you're driving a toaster, dude. Like what is it? What I mean, this is like, you know, you ever see back in the day, even though he's kind of a gross pedophile, I shouldn't say that word, should I? But I just got demonetized. But he's sort of like, let's call him Woody Allen. How about that? There was a movie Sleepers, and he tried to make everything look as generically stupid in the future as possible. Like everything was just, and that's with a Cybertruck. It's like, not Sleeper, whatever. Who cares? The Cybertruck is just, I mean, it's a hunk of garbage, but the key point with Elon, and we can get back to our friend Mr. Trump, and if we want the JFK files, is that he's just a younger version of Trump. It just took him longer to come out of his shell of being an apartheid baby racist with a stupid big mouth who says idiotic things on Twitter that are demonstrably untrue, proving that he may have a bit of abstract thinking, when it comes to certain of these things, but steals everybody else's ideas, leverages government funds to do it. Is really in the end is so stupid on a common sense level that he can't even interact with other people, and is leveraged to the hilt, which is why he's freaking out right now. Because as Tesla is crashing, Twitter is worth 16% of what it was worth when he bought it, which it never was actually worth 44 or whatever billion. It was worth like 30 something, but it's worth like 8 or 9 now. SpaceX is a disaster. So
Starlink now has international competitors that are
and people are moving to it because they know they can't trust him.
Well, I mean, right, because the market's opening up because he's an idiot.
Right. So what's going to happen is at some point there will be a margin call. It happens. It's what bankrupted Donald Trump a number of times.
Explain that to the audience, the margin call, because I think it's a complicated. What that means
is when you're leveraged, is the market will allow you. And back in the good old days, and by that I mean bad old days of the Great Depression, there was a period of time, kind of like what happened with our housing crisis in 2007, where you literally when you buy something on margin, it just means you only have to put a certain percent down, right? And they trust you. But you should have like a proven history of paying things off and stuff like that to get that. And of course, they would give it to anybody back then, and they would give it. You only had to put down 50%, and they covered you on the other 50%. That's why people are jumping from buildings in the Depression. Let me say that again. Let me say that over again. I'm sorry. They moved it up to 50%. It was 10% back then. Big distinction, and I screwed up that order there. So it was 10%. Imagine that. Hey, I got $10. I'm going to bet on something that's worth 100. Who am I? I don't know. I was homeless last week, but they're going to let me do it. So in Elon Musk, I don't know, some of those regulations that FDR took it to 50%. I don't remember if some of those regulations loosened that a bit. I worked on Wall Street, believe it or not, out of college for a year or two. I didn't know what I was doing. Haven't worked there since. So I know they passed some laws. They may have loosened it a bit. But the point being, even with Musk, because of his history, I bet they would trust him and allow him to have larger margin. And so he could put up less money for the money he owed. So what happens is you're betting on the stock to go up. If it goes down, what ends up happening is now you owe all of the money you lost plus the money you owed already that you didn't put down.
Right.
And you're completely screwed. And so there's a certain level his stock needs to hit. And I saw it the other day and I could not find it after that, where they will come to him and be like, all right, margin call, you've got to pay the other, whatever it is, half. You've got to cover, or it won't be at that point. If it goes below, it won't be the full half yet, but he'll have to start covering whatever it is that to get himself back up to where he's paid half.
Right. And it's basically just a money pit at that point.
Yes. If it keeps going down.
It's the reason why the board should actually really, when he bought Twitter and he made it clear that he was not interested in the economic stability of Tesla, he was more interested in being an ego trip more than anything.
Right.
And the board should have removed him as CEO, but he's cooked the board with family members and certain people to where he's got the votes that they can't remove him. But a margin call,
they that's the thing. I think they can be held now. They are in so deep, and they didn't get rid of him when this crap started a while back. When you sign on, I've served on a couple of nonprofit boards. You have a fiduciary responsibility, and so if you need to be watching the finances, and if somebody is doing things that are way out of whack that endanger the company, they can be held fiscally responsible. They can be sued, the board, and I can
by the shareholders.
Yes, if Tesla crashes enough, and by the way, at some point, I don't remember where it was, but in a fund somewhere, I was a shareholder. I've never bought. I didn't buy it directly. It wasn't my choice, but there was a fund that I had, and I couldn't do anything about it. God, I hope it still has some, because I will sue his ass off if I haven't done that. That's the only reason why I hope there's still some in there, because I'm sure I've lost. But I want to give you guys another strategy that a very smart person, who because of his position, could not share. He's liberal and awesome and whatever, but asked me to give him a call yesterday and said, you really should tell people about this. I watch your live stream. I'm a fan, blah, blah, blah. It's really nice of him and whatever. He's like, listen, how many of us here right now are planning on actually buying a new car this year? Right? He's like, are you? And I'm like, no, not at this point. Am I? I'm not. And he made a great point. He's like, so we got to keep the Tesla takedown things going, because yes, that's great. He's like, but no one's talked about this yet. This is a beaut, folks. You're going to love this. He was like, we need to have a reject Tesla Ubers movement. If every person who calls for an Uber, if it's a Tesla, rejects it and refuses to ride in a Tesla, the resale value of Teslas will crash. So I'm usually a guy with media advice, not necessarily activism advice, but here I am, and I'm going to tell all of you, let's come up with a name. Anybody in the comments, you're invited to do it. And if you come up with a good name, we'll put you up on the board here. Come up with, reject Tesla's Ubers, something obviously more clever than that. And I would say Lyft too. Doesn't Lyft, you can have different types of cars. Reject Lyft, Uber, whatever. Reject all Teslas. And if you do that, and like we should set up a website or something. And oh my God, like its resale value will plunge. It's beautiful. This guy's a genius, and I wish I could give you his name. And I will not take claim credit for his idea, because it was not my idea. And I am not a Republican, or certain people on the left who have shows where they say they care about you, but they really just care about their own bottom line. I'm not talking about anybody in particular, of course. But I'm somebody who doesn't try to take other people's ideas for myself. So I will tell you, this was not my idea, but I am sharing it with you and saying, take it out there, take it to the people. All of you.
I think it is a swell idea, and I think
don't ride with Elon. I don't mean to obsessive audio here. I just had to say that. That's not a bad idea. Uber off Tesla. Okay. Not C-mobiles. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that I know that Tesla's in big trouble. Elon knows that Tesla's in big trouble, and Donald Trump knows that Tesla's in big trouble. And how you know that for sure is they had that stupid car sales event spectacular, or whatever the hell it was, on the south lawn of the White House. And I think they were hoping that
I knew we'd get some great
ketamine cabbies.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Keep going, man.
The ketamine cabbies. Well, I think that was a pretty surefire sign that Elon Musk sees the writing on the wall that Tesla is probably finished. The other thing too that I'll tell you is that the Europeans, specifically, I think a poll that was taken in Germany, 94% of people in Germany said they would not be buying a Tesla.
Well, they're down. That's the market to the furthest down. He's down 63.
Right.
Excuse me. He's down 63% there.
And
they're the biggest, I believe, car market in Europe. France is one of the biggest. This is why I remember these numbers. And he's down 61% there.
Well, the reason why that's so important is because Elon Musk has really had to expand Tesla, his cars, to a foreign market. Tesla wasn't originally a car manufacturer. It was a solar manufacturer. He wanted to make it a car manufacturer. That's what he wanted. The problem is in the United States, you have a lot of big car makers that boxed him out of having dealerships in states. And because he couldn't have dealerships in states, he couldn't service these vehicles. And if you can't service a brand new vehicle, then you're not going to have a wide customer base. So it was always his challenge to get to the dealership market before Chevrolet, Ford, Toyota, Honda, before these other car makers that have large market shares in the United States got to marketable EVs. Now, when you talk about when
I worked some Nazi in there too. You like the little play on words with the German?
Yes.
Just saying.
So the idea that Elon Musk was going to make it to the market faster than what Chevrolet could bring a truck to the market, because Chevrolet, Ford, and there's a few others that actually have a pickup truck that is an EV that operates like the same torque as a gasoline or diesel power pickup truck, and it looks like a pickup truck. It looks like a pickup truck. Doesn't look like some campground urinal that's had sex with a toaster and that's the baby, right?
Right.
No, they actually look like a pickup truck. He's really screwed here because anyone who wants an EV can buy an EV in the market, and the market is pretty much wide open. Right. It's starting to be saturated.
Everybody else hadn't caught up yet.
Exactly.
Right? Like I had this debate with someone when I sent out the Substack about him, which is, what's it called? Like, Elon crashes or whatever was what I called it. And I was talking about how his rocket ship had crashed that day. The Cybertruck, again, like, when we used to talk about, I'm having either a flu moment or I'm freaking old moment. What do you call it? The car that crashed all the time in the 70s.
Pinto?
The Pintos, and that Cybertrucks blow up 17 times as often as Pintos.
They're more dangerous than Pintos.
Yes. And so I was putting all this stuff into, because everything was crashing for him. And somebody, and basically, people were pointing out, wait, what was God damn it, I still think I got brain fog. What was the point you were making, Tony?
The point I was making is that the market is now flooded with EVs from different manufacturers.
That's what it was. So this guy sent me back an email in good faith, who's a reader of my Substack, and said, listen, I agree with you. I hate Elon Musk or whatever, but you can't harm the earth by stopping and we're doing this. And, blah, 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 blah. We need EVs. I'm like, listen, dude, I said, you got to pay more attention to all of this with respect. Because I said, a couple of years ago, you would have been right. But Rivian is out there now. There are other specific, like electric car companies. And then all of these guys, Honda, like various folks have gotten to market where they have, like, the thing is that in these same markets we're talking about, and California was way down too. And that may be honestly the biggest EV market in the world. You need to remember California is the fourth or fifth biggest economy. 40 million something
it's
people.
Huge. It's huge, by the way. California is huge.
It's a big place. And so
and I say that because our main transportation in this country is cars, and the reason why is because Republicans absolutely refuse to do high-speed rail because they're idiots. But because
I was in France, whatever it was, 3 months ago, and we got from Paris down to Nice, which has to be like getting from like Boston to Richmond or God knows how far it is in like 3 hours or less, 2 hours. I mean, it's insane. And then you go up into Japan before the bullet trains there. You're like, who lost World War II? I'm not sure when I go there.
Right. Right.
But yeah, people rely on these cars because of the stupid way, with the exception of the East Coast and Chicago and San Francisco to a certain degree. Most cities have we're starting to add it. They've added some transportation in downtown Cincinnati here. I mean, cities are getting better. They're adding, certain trolleys. They're adding subways. They're doing things, but
we are a car society. We're a car society.
Yes, we are. And it's stupid. But the point being that in all of these places I brought up, which is what I said to this guy, it's not like those crashing numbers that I'm talking about. Crashing are just, that means, electric vehicles are down 63%. No, they're up 29% or whatever it is. It's Tesla that's crashing. People are buying more of all the other ones. So the electric vehicle market is still growing massively. It's just people aren't buying Teslas. And then somebody did a analysis of blue states versus red states. And obviously there are a lot of red state, I love my gas, whatever, that even if they love Elon Musk, are never going to buy an electric car. But it showed that like they were up, I think in red states, like 1%. Tesla, like purchases were up 1%. But the beauty was the number that are bought in blue states are far more. And it was down like 7% in blue states. And even 7% was like destruction. Like was a loss of market share in the billions, the many billions. So, I mean, again, people who think, and I keep getting this response, whether it's that Substack or in videos I've done at my YouTube, where people are like, oh, that doesn't matter to him, 140 or 180 billion. It does, guy. You don't get it.
Well, and it's not just the amount of money. It's not just
that point.
Clip, I want to say though, it's not just about the money to him. And the reason why, and you could really tell it on the South Lawn when they were holding that stupid Donald Trump McDonald's spectacular Tesla thing.
Oh yeah,
Tesla. We're going to sell some Teslas today.
When Ivanka did it. Oh, yeah. I'm surprised they didn't have her do that again. Go ahead. Yeah.
But what was very obvious in that moment is that Elon Musk's ego is tied to Tesla. He really has a lot of people convinced that he invented the autonomous car, that he invented the electric car. Like he has people convinced, and part of his
there's not one thing
popularity
he's done or is doing that he invented. Just so you
all
know.
Exactly. But again, because that's kind of his driven popularity, he sees it penned to Tesla because Tesla is the big brand. It's the brand that is out front. It is the one, I mean, besides X, where he ruined Twitter. But again, that brand Tesla is tied to his ego. So when Tesla does go down, so goes Elon's ego, which, I mean,
and here's the thing, you know what I find interesting? I love that someone said they're Elon, you're no Tony Stark, because that's, of course, what I always put. Like every time he says something just completely inane, I'm always like, you guys, you tech press are no better than the political press. Like you sold us that this guy was Tony Stark, this idiot. You sold us this. It's amazing.
Well, I mean, they did the same thing. They did the same thing about Trump in the late 80s. They sold him as some sort of brilliant businessman. Oh,
he's a brilliant businessman.
And then he crashed and bankrupt casinos. And we're going to get the same story here.
Why is this live stream growing? Why is Tony's live stream growing? Why are our YouTubes growing? Why are our Substacks growing? That's why. Because everybody knows they can't trust any of you anymore because you're all frauds. Right. And you all wrote stories that it was convenient or easy to write, or you could create a hero and sell lots of magazines and raise your pay, and did not give a crap that you were foisting upon the world, in these cases, narcissistic, sociopathic losers that have now look what they've done to us. But I mean, and that's the thing, is he is in serious danger. And again, his ego will not allow him to change course. And the thing that I found fascinating is the only one that can save him that I can see is Putin. If Putin wants to bail him out, if he sees him as useful, which means Putin owns him. Because I thought, here's the interesting thing, and I will admit, as I do, unlike so many on the right, and again, certain channels on the left that pretend they care about you, that don't. But I will admit when I'm wrong, and it happens often. And I say things that I feel like I've got the evidence I really believe, but I will be the first to come to you. I won't be like Elon, like, and sometimes I will say things that are incorrect, but and then never tell anybody what those things are because everything you say is incorrect, you idiot. But I thought that China would bail him out because
I don't think Xi
figured
Jinping's going to do that. I think
because
he's
they've
just
got a
gonna, he's
huge
gonna,
market
yeah.
for EVs, and I figured they could own him. But here's the thing that I think China's come to the conclusion, like mobster-like conclusion, is that as a free radical, if you will, in a scientific type experiment, he's a threat to them because he's his own autonomous sort of creature, almost country with the amount of money he has. And so if he were to ever turn on them, even if he made the EVs for them, they bought huge numbers of them, whatever, even if he's hurting the United States right now and they're loving it, because we're not trading with our partners and they're jumping in and grabbing some of the trade with the EU in places where we would have been. But they play the long game very well, sadly, in China. I mean, in this case, it's good when it comes to Musk, but they play the long game well. And I think they're looking at it and they're like, he still could be a viable competitor. It is better for us to allow him to be destroyed so that he is not a threat to us. And I'm saying this to you because they didn't step up any purchasing of his cars. In that same report that had him down in the 63%, I believe it was in Germany, 61% in France, he's down 29% in China. His cars are crashing there, literally in every way, too. Just not as much yet. And you know why? Because they're boosting their competitors against him. It's not because he has the same terrible reputation that he has in the EU and the United States and Canada, because China likes that he's harming us. China likes that he's harming the NATO alliance. So the people there don't, and whatever propaganda they're getting, they don't have a problem with that. They do, but so they're doing it because they're building up their own competitors. Why buy this guy off when they can destroy him or let him destroy himself and help it along? And that's what I think is happening. So I don't think they are going to bail him out. So I don't know if it's Putin. I don't know if it's the bone saw Saudis or somebody. If one of these foreign entities doesn't bail him out, I'm here to tell you that whether you believe, if you think he has endless money, he would, if he weren't like Donald Trump and he wasn't an idiot. Like if Donald Trump had taken that $400 million check from Grandpa Klansman over there, his daddy, and had put that in the bank, Donald Trump would be rich as hell and wouldn't have to do a thing.
Right.
But instead, both of these egotistical
S&P
imbeciles leverage themselves way beyond where they should have. And that's why. So Musk, if you think Musk is not in real danger, there's a reason he's panicking and upping the ketamine level right now. The snorting is the snortation devices he's created.
The ketamine cab driver. He may have to become a cab driver to get himself out of this financial predicament that he might find himself in.
Right. You have that voice when you're about to say you're going to leave and you're not leaving yet.
No, I'm not leaving.
Don't even try it.
That's what I wanted to pivot to JFK because I want to see if we can talk this through, because I forgot to bring my tinfoil hat or have it handy. I don't really see it. I usually have it laying.
My Young Turks one here. Does that count?
Oh yeah,
That's
that might be.
Tinfoil hat, isn't it?
I try to have my tinfoil hat really handy here so I can put it on, but I don't seem to have it here. But
yeah,
it sounds like you believe more in the conspiracy of JFK than I do, the assassination of JFK. But
does that work?
That works. Yeah. But apparently Donald Trump has already lied about this. He's saying that he's going to release 800,000 documents. I mean, I find it interesting that he might release the rest of the documents. I mean, I think Bill Clinton released JFK documents. I'm pretty sure George W. Bush did. I know Obama did, and I'm certain that Trump did his first term, and Biden also released a shitload of JFK documents from the classified files. So I'm not sure what is left to actually be released. Maybe there's some.
Well, can I say something because I want to clarify my position on this. Like, I don't have the Oliver Stone position. I don't believe in some crazy LBJ was involved and like everybody in government knew. No, what I'm saying is, if Trump has taught us anything, and if Watergate did, where a couple of those right-wing oil billionaires were involved, you know, and some of the other things we have seen over the years. What I'm saying is, when it comes to virulent right-wing, a couple of virulent right-wing corporate types who often have ties to the CIA and folks of that sort, I combine that, all that, with my knowledge of government. And granted, again, doesn't mean I'm right on this. I'm just saying I probably read a half dozen books, read through the report, did all that. And I believe my belief system is, if you compromised a few of the right people, that everyone else, what I've learned, look at it going on so much of our government now, is some stuff leak. Absolutely. But a lot of people will keep their heads down because they don't want to be killed, avoid it. A lot of other people are so incompetent they won't know what's going on. In other words, I don't believe it needs to be on the level. That's part A. And part B is the evidence created, which is the character that was in Oliver Stone's movie, Jim Garrison, actually bringing a trial against a former CIA agent, which he did for being involved, Clay Shaw, and it was later came out that he lied under oath about numerous things, about where he was at times and his fake name and all that sort of stuff. Plus, this guy shooting from where he shot from and being a crappy shot and having the day of his life, as you put it, plus the number of people that were there that day that had unfortunate accidents happen to them boggles the mind. Plus, the final thing, which they weren't counting on, the Zapruder film, which, by the way, she used to be on Twitter. I wanted to have her on here at some point. Today would have been the day. Zapruder's granddaughter, who did a documentary on it. She's fascinating. It's Alexandra Zapruder. That film they had locked away forever. You also know that somebody's head, I'm sorry, again, having been somebody that shot on a rifle team, does not go backwards and to the left when the bullet enters from behind. Does not happen. So I'm adding up. And then there's the church committee that concluded that there was a conspiracy, and this was a government Senate intelligence body, that there was a conspiracy because of the number of shots they heard and because some of the testimony they heard. They also said they didn't believe it was as vast as was being made out, and that their members and getting people there and everything, they couldn't prove who was involved and whatever. So all I'm saying to you is, some vast conspiracy where our government is being run by Hydra, like in Captain America or something. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I believe that a few people in compromising, let's put it, positions who had the ability to compromise him did. And I believe that, and I don't believe it took more than a half dozen to a dozen of the wrong people, if you want to put it that way, to do it. And I believe that, Earl Warren being the person who fought for desegregation, if you remember, the Warren Court, who's the head of the Warren Committee and all of that. But I do believe that there was a cover up there because, again, if what happened really happened, if that came out, that there are a couple of rogue, people in government working with a couple of mobsters, God knows what would the results of that would be in this country. Yes, that is what I believe. But I do have to be very clear, and then I kick it back to you, that I do not believe in some whole vast Oliver Stone networked, it was no, that to me is crap. And I don't believe it at all.
So I want to ask then, why because Donald Trump is not releasing the Jeffrey Epstein files. It's pretty clear because he's in them. We already
he's
know
all over them.
No, I mean, he's in the files. He's in them. That's why he's not going to release them.
He's all. If he redacted his name, it'd be like half the file, probably.
Right. And already the right wing is very pissed off about these JFK files, and the reason why is because whatever is released, if it's not 800,000 pages like Trump has promised, like he did at the JFK center. He's like 800,000 pages are going to be released, which if there is 800,000 pages released, there's probably 799,000 already released.
That sounds like to me.
Right. But here's the thing. He's going to be totally embarrassed if Ted Cruz's dad didn't actually kill Kennedy. Like Trump is no, I'm serious. Trump is going to be totally embarrassed.
But that's going to be Sharpied in there too. Like it's going to say, and the perpetrators were blah, blah, blah. And it'll say, and Ted Cruz's dad. Like you won't even know his name.
You
He'll
just
write
Ted
like
Cruz's
Ted Cruz's dad in there.
But I mean,
You
how
know
much
he
of an
will.
how much of an embarrassment is going to be for Donald Trump? I mean, not really, because he, this guy is shameless. That's really the point here. But how embarrassing is it going to be for Trump that he can't get the Epstein files released because he is the Epstein files, and he can't spare the embarrassment of the JFK files dropping when it's found out that what he said about Ted Cruz's dad is not true. Ted Cruz's dad had
Well, but
nothing to
then
do with the
he'll
JFK
again.
assassination.
We know how this works with his base. He'll make up another reality. I never said that about Ted Cruz. What are you talking about?
Right.
And it's over.
That was
that's the
that was
problem,
a
is that-
that was a joke. I was being sarcastic.
Right. Exactly. See, there you
but
go.
the thing
He'll
is,
say that.
But yeah,
Ted
but he
Cruz will
went
forgive
on
him
and on
say,
and
of
on.
course he was being sarcastic.
He said it like
and
a
then-
whole week. A whole week he
Yeah,
was saying this,
doesn't
and Ted
matter.
Cruz had to respond, and it was a whole thing.
But you're acting like this is that their base isn't made up of the Walking Dead. Like again, they're zombies, right? Like they will believe anything that he says, and then the rest are, and then all of us will know obviously what we know, and then that swing group of low information voters will not get the truth because corporate media will do play their little game, and he said, she said it to death, to where people don't understand what the fuck the thing even says. So they'll just be like, we don't know, but maybe Trump's right. And they won't be able to make heads or tails of it. This is how people like Trump win elections. This is how our democracy gets lost, because 30 to, I call them 35, even up to 37, 8% are brainwashed dildos. Another 15% couldn't be bothered to pay enough attention or have busy lives. And for them, I feel sorry, and don't know really what's going on and can be manipulated easily by right-wing media and the failure of mainstream media and the failure of the people on our side to invest in our media. And then all the rest of us know the truth, but that doesn't matter.
Well, I think
it's just going to play out like that.
The important thing about these JFK files, and I want to point this out to the audience, the reason why we should be talking about this, because it is a distraction, right? But the reason why we should be talking about this and pointing out the JFK files any way, form, or fashion that we can with Trump is because it puts a huge spotlight on the fact that Donald Trump won't release the Epstein files. And the right wing is so frothing at the mouth to have the Epstein files released, but Donald Trump can't release them. He can't do that. He can't let them know the truth. And that's why the JFK files and him saying he's going to release them 800,000 or 80,000 or 8 pages, whatever it is. And if it's highly redacted, which it is likely to be highly redacted, when they release these files, it is likely to be redacted. If the portion that he releases redacted, that's going to piss the right wing off even more.
I mean, it will, but I got a couple things to remind you of, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to build a big, beautiful wall. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to stop him from coming in. This week, it's infrastructure week. Oh my God, I've got the best infrastructure in the world. I mean, like, we could go on and on with the lies. The first thing I do when I get to office, I'm going to end the war in Ukraine. I'm going to end the war. It's going to be done. I mean, he lies. They slurp it up like he does freaking Adderall, and it doesn't matter. Again, these are people that are beyond truth. They're beyond. I mean, they really are the Walking Dead. Like, they don't have functioning frontal lobes. Like, they don't have critical thinking. I don't know how they take care of themselves. Like that video that I've shown again, that woman like, yep, I'm a farmer. I live in Nebraska. And yep, he told us he was going to fire. I'm using her words now. Going to fire all the illegals. Yep, he said that, and we voted for him overwhelmingly. And it's kind of foolish if you think about it. I was telling my husband, kind of foolish that we voted for our own demise. She actually says it like that. Yes, it's kind of foolish, as in you're the dumbest fucking person in the world. But that's what we're dealing with.
Well, here I'll tell you that I'm observing what the right wing is doing, and right now there's a lot of positioning around the JFK files, and the reason why is because right wingers are inherently conspiracy theorists, and the reason why is because they don't like truth. They don't like truth. They want to fill the gap. What we don't know.
They're scared of death. They're scared of complexity. Conspiracies, and religion goes right up there with it, allow you to create simple truths that make everything in life easier. Oh, I'm going to heaven. Awesome. I can do whatever I want.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like this is
But
what
here's what I'll say. Here's what I say. Representative Tim Birdshit, as I call him, but Birdshit.
that imbecile. Yeah.
Right. He's on Benny
He's
Johnson's.
the one who, by the way, what's his name? Kevin McCarthy. The only time I've ever rooted for him before is Kevin McCarthy walked by him after he voted to oust him and he elbowed him in the ribs. Remember, we had the audio of that, of him walking by.
And Tim Birdshit.
That was the only. Yeah,
well, Tim Burchett's the one who threatened Matt Gaetz to make Kevin McCarthy the actual speaker when Kevin McCarthy was in their 14th vote, I believe. But Tim Burchett
shows you like you can't predict anything with these idiots.
No. So Benny Johnson, he was on Benny Johnson's show this morning. I'm guessing it wasn't too long ago. And
Russia TV. We should remind people every time Benny Johnson, Dave
Russian TV,
Tim Pool. You really can't say their names without reminding everybody they were paid by Russia. So just understand that.
Tim Burchett says on his show, JFK files released today will be full of lies and we will never truly know who pulled the trigger. So they're already laying the groundwork that the stuff that's going to be released is going to be lies and you can't believe it. And they're trying to create confusion. And the reason why is because when these things drop, there's not going to be a lot of confusion.
I think you had it right on your show.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's two things I would say. One, it is. And again, I'm sorry, like I don't accept that I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. So we've already had a full discussion on this show about his threat to Biden. It's to get people's attention off of stuff. But I would argue that part of this show is about entertainment and things that I'm interested in, and I hope you're interested in. And part of it is about, what people need to know. And so we do both. And so, but there are people now, newspapers, others, that will only cover the JFK thing. So part of it is is misdirection. And there's that. Part of it also is you may remember that his stupid Health and Human Services secretary, just saying that, is, believes that his uncle John was killed in some vast conspiracy. So maybe he's doing it to make Robert happy. There's a variety of reasons he could be doing it. What I'm telling you is it's not going to tell us anything. And whatever it tells us, you can't trust as truth anyhow. So it doesn't matter in the end. I don't know what it's going to tell us. I don't know if it's going to be a bunch of crap. I don't know if it's going to be accurate. What I do know is nothing that comes out of that this guy releases, I will believe for a second, is accurate. So it doesn't matter.
Well, and the other factor here is that the extreme right wing, including the and I include the Free Palestine people in the right wing because they are funded by right wingers. Everyone
it might as well be.
Well, everyone thinks they're left wingers, but they're funded by the right, and they are saying fascist things, which makes.
And to be clear, these aren't people that just have sympathy for Palestinian kids. These aren't people that think Bibi Netanyahu is a criminal. I think both of those things. But the Free Palestine movement was literally the best example of Russian disinformation on the left.
Right.
Since Jill Stein in 2016.
And I don't want to get off track here because I think it's important to realize that right now on the internet, and this is going to be rampant the next 24, 48 hours, is that it's the Jews. It's their fault. The Jews killed JFK because somehow JFK didn't want Israel to have the nuclear weapon.
Look, I was 10 miles away at the time. I have an alibi. Okay. I wasn't at the theater with Oswald afterwards. You know what I mean? Like I was nowhere near there.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
that's
Jesus.
The extreme
might as well
right
take
wing
out JFK too, right?
That's what the extreme right wing does every single time they get a hold of a conspiracy theory. Roger Stone is going to be doing it. Alex Jones will make his the Jews round.
I'm sure George Soros planned it from like wherever he was at the time, Hungary or France or wherever he was living back then when he was about 20 years old or so. He planned the whole thing.
But I mean, when you talk about information being released from 60 years ago, has it been 60 years? Yeah, 60 years. So it's been 60 years. So we're talking over a half a century ago of something that really, no matter what information that we get in this point in time, it's not going to change anything with our society. It's just not going to change anything fundamentally. So all
I think it could if it were truthful it could possibly have some sort of an effect on.
Well, but I mean, I think there's so many lies,
who,
though. There's so many
but
lies that are built around it
that's
that
the
it doesn't
thing
matter what
yeah,
truth you
yeah.
get.
It's just no one will know if we had real free speech laws that protected you from disinformation and lies, maybe. But in the society we live in, you know, again, you're not going to get truth out of this thing, and you're not going to get truth online, and so it doesn't matter.
Right, and I think that's maybe the point here is that if we can focus energy on, like, okay, the JFK files, now the Epstein files. That's great. Yay! Trump did a great thing. We agree with you, MAGA. Yay! He did awesome. It's the one thing Trump's done in the last 2 months that hasn't crashed to the surface of the earth, is that he released the JFK files. Now do the Epstein files.
Right.
And
hey, I didn't show you this quickly because I knew you'd like it. I put up Paul Young's quote here about Louis Brandeis being the most famous Jew from Louisville, which, you know, I met my wife when I was living in Louisville working against McConnell, by the way. So I was a Jew living at Louisville at one point, but I'm not nearly as famous as Louis Brandeis.
You're not the most famous. You're not the most famous.
I'm not famous at all, and I'm also not from there.
Right,
so,
right,
you know,
exactly.
That. But I put that up there because he probably said what I think should be one of Tony's favorite quotes of all time that I often quote, which is, you can live in a society with great disparities in wealth, or you can live in a democracy. You can't have both.
Right.
And that is, there never has more truth been said.
That is true. And I think if we can get past, you know, the initial blow of the muddying of the waters, because the media is going to want to talk about this JFK thing. And the reason why is because it's a huge moneymaker for the media.
Yep.
When you're talking
the
about
glamour of Camelot and this and that. Now RFK,
the Zapruder film, you brought up the Zapruder film.
There's so many angles to it now that they'll love it.
Right. They're going to want to talk about it. I think it's the reason why Trump's trying to court back some of the media's attention to him. But I think it's going to backfire on him. And the reason why it's going to backfire on him is because MAGA, his staunch support, is going to want him to do the same thing with the Epstein files. So by him releasing the JFK files, he's setting up this painting himself into the corner with his red meat, red hatters about the Epstein files, because they're going to expect it. If he truly does drop all the JFK files, whatever's left, if it's 80,000 or 80 or 800, whatever it is, I think he's setting himself up for failure, as Trump always does.
Well, what I think is going to happen is, I think the same thing is just going to happen. That's always going to happen. Is I don't think that's going to be the big thing that's going to harm him. Is I think Doge is going to keep cutting jobs among MAGA supporters. They're going to keep losing work. They're going to keep losing healthcare. They're going to a whole lot of them are on Medicaid. Oops. I think all of that's going to keep happening. The economy is going to keep getting sucked into a recession. The market's going to keep sucking, and all these other things, and it's going to lead all sorts of people. Because there's this great article the other day on how Wall Street is now really pissed at him, and then you just want to be like, I know some of Wall Street didn't vote for him.
They're just now pissed at him. They're just now pissed at him.
Well, yeah. Some of them,
not the whole tariff talk summer last year. The tariff talk summer,
but that's it. Which is, which part of that, and again, a decent amount of Wall Street, I think, didn't vote for him for that reason. I think more of them turned against him than had any Republican in the past, but enough of them still voted for him because they're idiots. And it's like, if you couldn't see that a guy, with two brain cells at best to rub together, which are both compromised anyhow by that orange crap on his face, and has no idea how to run a business, as we know, bankrupts casinos, and is a whimsical, petulant little idiot that comes out with little angry remarks all the time. We're going to bomb them. We're going to put tariffs on them. We're going to. If you understand markets, all that is terrible for markets, and that markets react terribly to that, and a lack of rule of law, lack of stability. So, like me and like Tony and anybody else with a functioning cerebral cortex, you could have predicted this. It was not hard to predict. So, if you voted for him, FAFO. That's all I have to say. So, all this is going to keep happening, and it's going to lead to these people, all these people that voted for him, hating him. And I don't think JFK in the end And most of the other things he says and does are going to matter because egg prices will still go up.
I
and
don't know.
grocery prices will still go up.
I actually think that it does a lot to to actually disengage some of these people from his
Maybe.
universe.
Maybe.
Like the QAnoners.
You know.
I mean, they believe this stuff. And when this stuff drops and it's not there and it's not what they need and it's not what they want, and then Donald Trump won't do the thing that he's promised that they want the most. I find it so interesting that MAGA and the QAnon type universe wants him to release the Epstein files, and they are absolutely oblivious to the truth that the reason why he cannot release them because he was ordering these underage girls from Jeffrey Epstein, and it is going to show that he cannot release those records. He cannot do that.
I think some of that stuff may leak out eventually anyhow. I did want to thank I put this up here from Obsessive Audio. Creative insulting is a hobby of mine, so it is something I try to do.
It looks like this guy's an enemy of ours from Canada, by the way. He's got a Canadian flag there, and we know they're our enemy now.
That's right.
They're those enemy combatants from Canada.
Yeah, exactly. Right, because they will crush us and defeat us just with lumber and electricity alone, and maybe some wild moose running around up there, and we're so weak at this point. We do have a big military, I'll say that, but I wonder how many people, if for stupid reasons, Trump ordered.
Can you imagine getting your battalion together and you're like, all right, what's the mission? Who's the mission against today? Like, and you get the papers, Canada, and you're like, what the fuck?
Does he think all of those, let's call them MAGA portly Americans? Let's call them, because we like to hyphenate. High caloric Americans, let's call them, are going to give up on their maple syrup. Like, is he insane? They're all going to stop going to Denny's and Bob Evans and whatever. No, they ain't going to Cracker Barrel. It ain't happening,
the other thing is our
appetite. Maple syrup goes up is when we'll throw up the white flag in this country.
Our appetite for crude is so high, and our appetite for lumber is so high in this country.
We can't.
The crude and the lumber alone will absolutely kill the American economy. Not to mention dairy. Dairy is also a huge import that we bring from Canada. The upper northwest part of the country relies on Canadian dairy as much as they rely on electricity that is made and produced and imported from Canada. Up there, I
gotta tell you too. Also, hockey games are going to suck. And the fights are going to be terrible. I mean, if you like hockey, you can't start a war with Canada. You can't.
I find it very interesting that we are in a situation in this country where we have to live with this truth that there is a certain amount of people who woke up in the last couple months and believe Donald Trump that Canada is our enemy, not our ally. I mean, right. I get their bigotry from Mexico. Like I fully understand that they're like, oh, there's brown people from Mexico, and like, well, right. You realize we kind of
don't have to support their bigotry. In fact, you can think it's horrific and still understand why.
But you can understand what that is, right?
Because they're imbeciles and it's lowest common denominator. Yeah,
but like Canada is one of the whitest countries on earth, isn't it? Isn't it like one of the whitest?
I think it has to be. Yes, I mean,
right. I mean,
even the ground is white from all the snow.
Exactly.
They should love it.
It's like one of the most Caucasian countries on the flat earth. It's one of the most Caucasian. Maybe that's why they want it too, because if we annex Canada, then we'll be whiter. America will be whiter because we annex Canada. But I still do not understand.
Problem is, though, they're more liberal whites.
That's true.
That's the one, positive. If he really wants to annex Canada, is like no Republican will win again. The presidency.
Well, it doesn't look like a Republican or a conservative is actually going to win in Canada for a long time. Trump has kind of ruined that for him.
That's what's cool and the numbers have moved in a few other countries. I mean, again, you pointed out, if you think that that's not part of the what's going on now in Belgrade, you know, because in Serbia as well as in Budapest, Hungary, I mean, I tell you, those guys eventually are going to turn to Putin and be like, "Can't you get him to go stay in a hotel on the 5th floor?" I mean, come on, this guy's killing us. He's discrediting everything we're doing, you know. So,
well, and again, I'm not sure, you know, exactly the bumbling, fumbling foreign policy from Donald Trump. I obviously know that it's probably rooted from the marbles rolling around in his head. Actually, I shouldn't say that about his marbles. His marbles packed their shit and left. It's gotten so crazy. They're like, come on, Larry.
Like,
come on, Larry, get your shit. Let's get the hell out of here. Like, he's not lost his marbles. His marbles packed their shit and left. So I shouldn't say that about
like everybody else.
Right. Like the marbles that were still left were like, I'm out of here. But it's befuddling that the American people already haven't sank his approval rating down into the 20s because he believes that Canada is our enemy. That one confuses me. It really does.
Well, I mean, that, and I mean, again, it's sort of this constellation of factors, the same one that we're always talking about when it comes to disinformation. You know, if the mainstream media did its job, if corporate media acted like media is supposed to and told people just straightforward truth about things and how dangerous Trump was, if they all reported the way the Philadelphia Inquirer and the Cleveland Plain Dealer and ProPublica and other papers that decided they were going to be accurate, if they all did that, as well as cable TV, and we limited disinformation like any intelligent country would do and said that it is not free speech to tell people the kinds of lies that get them killed. And the left were not pathetic and put any money into building an infrastructure that reached a larger number of people. If those three things had happened, Donald Trump would never get beyond 30% of the vote. I kind of believe that no matter what, there's a 30% who can always be conned, who always will go for a strong man, a cult leader or whatever, like, you know, maybe even 33%, maybe even a third. I think he could always get that. It's that other 15 to 20% that he gets based upon the failure of our culture, you know, the failure of our media in actually acting like what their role is in our Constitution, are allowing this right-wing propaganda hydra, to speak of hydra, to grow and sell people just lies and conspiracy constantly, and our unwillingness to build something to push back. It's the combination of those three factors, because otherwise we're a completely different country. And he never gets to, I mean, you know how many of these stupid people, they may be stupid for voting for him, and they're certainly stupid for believing him, but they believed him and they voted for him. And if he were not allowed to share the kind of disinformation as people that he did, and the media actually told them what the hell was going on, a whole bunch of them would not have voted for him.
Well,
that's where we are.
I think you're right. And I think if we can round it out with Chuck Schumer, the JFK files, and Canada, I think we had a pretty good discussion today.
I think so too.
I'm not sure. Do you have another guest coming on, or am I it?
I do not. You were the guest, and I have to leave a little bit early today. I'll sort of give my folks some heads up after you go, just for a couple minutes, I think. But I have to go pick up my son at school, let people know what's going on about, you know, with live streams coming up and other things. Well,
yeah. I'm glad I got to join you today, and I'm sorry I couldn't find my tinfoil hat. I really I was hoping I'd be able to use my tinfoil hat today, but I can't find it. Maybe I'll invent a conspiracy.
I told you, I'll send you a Young Turks hat if you need one, and then you're set.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. I don't need a Young Turks hat.
What if you what if, let's say, all of your toilets are stuffed and you have no other options? Like, that hat's round. I mean, it offers some solace in those situations.
You know, if I could use it as a commode, that's the only thing I would probably use it for. that's
Okay,
what
well,
you're
you know,
saying.
that's probably why I'd send it to you. I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
you know.
Good. Good.
Well,
Well,
she's got this
everyone.
other group of guys too that claim they're mainstream and whatever. They've got merch too, and I might get one of theirs and send it to you too.
Yeah, they got merch, and it ends up in court documents with Donald Trump. That's funny. All right,
Yeah.
Cliff Schechter, I got to get out of here. I appreciate the conversation, and everyone go follow me everywhere on theTonyMichaels.com.
Follow them in all the
Michaels.
places.
All the Monopoly State apps.
Yes.
TonyMichaels.com. All right, Cliff, thanks a lot. We'll see you, audience.
Take care, Tony. All right, guys. So listen, I'm sorry about the way it's worked out the last few weeks. That 12-hour thing a few weeks ago meant that I could not do other live streams. And I got this flu thing, which you can hear is mostly gone. But that limited me that week to one live stream. And then last week we did 3, though. We crushed it. We had a lot of live streams. So here's what I'm going to promise you, because I value you also. Even though we're going to be off spring break type stuff with my kids and family. Starting tomorrow, I am going to try from where I will be. I'm going to try to do a live stream. It may only be like a half hour though. Okay. But I'm going to try to do a half hour, something like that. Give you guys, like something quick. It will not have any of the good stuff here or the good mic. So nobody can be like, oh, your sound's terrible. Like, I will be using earbuds and I will be using the camera on my computer if I do this. So you need to be prepared for that. So if I can do that, I will do that. But I can't promise you. That would either be tomorrow or Thursday. I'll try to sort of make sure to keep you up with it. Also, got to subscribe to the Substack is growing and huge. We just released what our offerings are for paid subscribers. It will blow you away. It's a ton of stuff from David Schuster and New York Times PitchBot, and from me and others. I'm going to put my most recent one in here and ask you to please read it. I think you will like it. It's on Trump and the judges and other stuff. It's serious, but it has some funny stuff in there too. Right now, just grab it, like copy it, paste it somewhere and read it as soon as we leave here. And then you can go in and you can become an unpaid subscriber, or if you want all the extra stuff, and there will be much, a paid one. We're really trying to grow it. Jim's got you covered here with my Patreon. Where'd that go? That was here, and then it was gone. There it is. Go there too. As I told you, I'm pushing now the Substack because I want to get everybody in one place over the Patreon, but we still love Patreon members. I know I owe you guys a lot, but that's the beauty of that. I'm going away for a bit. We'll be doing less. Is you can get videos every day for a bit and the stuff that I've fallen behind on. So that will be helpful. And then always subscribe to the YouTube. We're growing rapidly. We're getting up towards 113,000. We're picking up steam again. Good thing. And Twitch, for my Twitch folks who are here, I love you guys. Subscribe there and follow. Last thing, guys, who's coming with me? Come on. We only got 2 special, I guess Sheldon gave Sheldon, thank you, a membership to YouTube. Again, those we still love too. We don't push those, but any support is greatly appreciated. So thank you, Sheldon. And Kelly Starr gave $10. Thank you, Kelly. Super chat. If Trump or anyone else, he'd be hawking his crap at 2-star hotel conventions. Absolutely, though I think it would be 1 star. But we can, debate the stars. But come on, guys. Ooh, here's Twitch. Subscribe. Yeah, my Twitch folks, join there. But I got to throw it out there. Remember, in these past ones, I've asked, we got to reach 10. 10 is the number I've set. Double digits. Super chats, super stickers, Patreon memberships, Blue Amp Substack memberships. So who's coming with me? Don't make me take the goldfish, man. Who's coming with me? I mean, 2. I work hard. I can't end with just 2. And I hate doing this. I hate doing this, guys. But these little things keep the channel going, keep me going, allow me to do so much of this. So anyone who, 99-cent super sticker, that's something that helps me go. Pirates, Alex, the goldfish is a line from what do you call it? Jerry Maguire, when he's like, who's coming with me? I've done that. I do that at the end of these shows to ask people to give super stickers and super chats. They can be really small. They can be 99 cents, $1.99. Look at Lefty Gramps coming with $5. Glad I made it in for a few minutes. Take care, Cliff. Lefty Gramps. You're awesome. He's a paid subscriber. We'll have Lefty Gramps give a quote at some point. Tell you how good it is to be a paid subscriber at Substack. Report the Katie Johnson case and I'll donate. Benny Loco. How about you share with me the Katie Johnson case? Because I do my best, but I can't keep up on everything. And I've had the flu and I have kids graduating and planning a trip and, lots of stuff. So how about we'll put it this way, Benny Loco, you donate anything. I'll be on here with Katie Johnson and I will read about it and I will tell everybody. But we only have 3. I may have to leave without us not even getting halfway to our goal. It's available online. Okay. And I will look it up. But sometimes if people ask me to do something, I don't think it's too much to say, hey, a link helps. But okay, that's fair. I've asked you guys to do things before without links there. So fine, that's cool. I gotta go pick up the child. So I don't know. Today may just be a small day for our super stickers. No more 99 cents or $1.99, huh? That's it. All right. You guys are awesome. So it's okay. You've always been awesome. You supported me and kept this thing going. $2 super sticker from Karen Klein jumping in. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate that so much. Ms. Isabella, keep brainstorming the Tesla action name. That's right. We're going to keep doing that because we are going to do that. Uber, Alice, Tesla. That's not the name necessarily, but we're going to do it. You know what? You got me up to 5. And 5 is not 10, but it's half of 10. Oh, what? Pearl Eyes. Look at that. $2.79. See ya. Cheap super stickers can be your friends. That's it. If other folks jump in, I really appreciate it. You're awesome. But I do at this point have to head out, pick up the kid. I thank you all and I will do my best. I promise you to do one tomorrow, Thursday. I'll put a notification. How about you come by my YouTube? I'll put a notification up in the YouTube on my wall, as well as I'll make sure Tony, because a lot of you come from there, gets out to you when what's going on, if there is one Wednesday or Thursday. And who knows, maybe I'll even do one through my phone. I don't know if I have StreamYard on there. I'm not sure how that would work, but I definitely will get one done and you will appreciate it. And there'll be much love. So you guys take care. Thanks for being here. As we always say, we'll say, see, Wayne jumps in, has to, for Benny Loco, Katie Johnson docs. There you go. Thank you, Wayne. Guin, my French friend. Nous parlons en français. Thank you for on the way out. That's huge. $10. Thank you. Now I use another line from that. You have completed me. So as the sun sets slowly in the west, my friends, I bid you a fond farewell. Take care and talk to you soon.